Nuneaton and Bedworth Council, our extraordinary meeting. It's a civic event tonight. We will be honouring some very special people from our borough and for the good works that they have done and the service that they have provided to our community. But before I get into proceedings properly, I need to refer to agenda item 1, which is the evacuation procedure. A fire alarm is not expected tonight, so if the alarm sounds, it is for real. Please remain calm. Please leave by the nearest fire exits. There's one behind you or the main doors you came in. If anybody needs assistance, please raise your hand and officers will assist you. The meeting point is across the road outside of Virgin Money, formerly the Yorkshire Bank. Proceedings are being live streamed currently and are also being recorded by Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council for future broadcast on their YouTube channel. Item 2 is apologies. I have apologies from Councillor Rudkin, Councillor Phillips and also Councillor T. Shepherd. Are there any other apologies? And Councillor H. Walmsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Rockin will be running late, but she will be here, but she's stuck in traffic. She won't. She's behind me.
Great timing, great timing. Thank you. So now we move on to declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest other than those already printed in the papers for this meeting? Councillor Shepherd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, I've still got this need. It's not doing as I'm asking it to do. In terms of declarations of interest, in terms of item 11, because Mr. Garung is a director of Wembrook Community Centre.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, so that brings us on to item 4, announcements. Are there any announcements? Councillor Condacor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I do a point of a notice without motion to actually move items 11 and 12 ahead of item 6, please? Under the Constitution 4A 12, category C.
Is there a seconder for that? That's seconded. This is a procedural motion, so there is no debate. We will just do this on a show of hands. So all those in favour? 4. All those against? 24. So that's lost. Okay, thank you. Right, if we can proceed with the announcements, as there were no other announcements, I just have 2. There is a fundraiser in support of the Mayor's Appeal charity this year, Mary Ann Evans Hospice. It's an ABBA tribute night, and they are a very good ABBA tribute, and that's being held on Friday the 13th of May at the Co-op Hall. Tickets are available for just £8, and they are available from Mary Ann Evans Hospice, or if you contact the hospice direct, or if you can't get tickets there, please contact the Mayor's office. Thank you. Next item is item 5, public speaking. Mr. Chief Executive, do we have any public speakers tonight?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to item 6, nominations for Honoree Alderman. Donald Jakes. Councillor Wilson, you wanted to nominate?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It is a pleasure to nominate Donald Jakes, BEM, for the position of Honorary Alderman. And I would like to preface my comments by saying tonight, Mr. Mayor, this is a truly historic evening that we have never witnessed since the creation of this borough. And indeed, I believe all recipients who are being nominated tonight are truly outstanding candidates for such a historic evening tonight and will represent this borough with unswerving loyalty and ability. But coming on to Don Jakes, I think those of us who have known Don Jakes for a while, I profess I've known him for about 10 or 12 years, and there are a number of people here who have known him longer. Don is a force of nature, And I don't think anyone would be able to deny that who has spent even a minute in his company. And if I was to read his entire CV, it would indeed be quite long, Mr. Mayor. Quite simply, Don has been at the heart of our community for decades, not just as a councillor, but active in the community. He has, of course, been a councillor, and he was mayor from 1995 until 1996, alongside his dear wife, Oriel, who sadly passed away last year. And together, they were the first citizens of this borough and represented, as I understand it, the borough fantastically. He was, of course, leader of the Conservative group for many years, and being a fellow leader of the Conservative group, I can attest to how difficult that can be at times. And it is an exclusive club, shall we say, but he is far more than just a councillor. He is an inspiration. He has not only served in our armed forces, but the dedication he has given to the armed forces community across Nuneaton and Bedworth over so many years has been a marvel to watch. And for those of us who actually come to the Remembrance Sunday events, Don is there, come rain, come shine, whatever. And he remembers, and he honours those who fell before. So it is only appropriate, I believe, Mr. Mayor, that we honour Don Jakes tonight. Not only has he been active in the armed forces community, but he was also a teacher of many years standing in Nuneaton and Bedworth. And there are literally generations of children who have been taught by Don. And he has a legacy of so many people that he has touched or helped along the way. So many names, I doubt he could even remember all of them. Although, no, he does actually have a fantastic memory, and he would probably give us a good attempt at a list. Indeed, I saw him the other day, a couple of weeks ago, actually, when I was in town with Councillor Clark. And he was still out and about, still observing Nuneaton and Bedworth, still telling me what he thinks needs to be done with Nuneaton and Bedworth, Mr. Mayor. But his heart is of this borough. And he has dedicated so much of his life to others that now I feel it is so appropriate to honour a man who, if I am half the man he has been in my public life, I know I will have done a fantastic job. So, hopefully, Mr. Mayor, Don Jakes will be the first ever alderman of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council, and I can think of no better first for this council than Don Jakes. Congratulations, Don, you are a star. And I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a seconder? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm also honoured to be able to second Don. Don, I've known for probably 40, 50 years, I suspect. And as the leader said, he is outstanding in his dedication to Nuneaton and Bedworth and our residents. He has served in numerous guises, veterans contacts, whatever. He's always been there to raise money for good causes. And if there's an issue or you need help, Don has always been there for you. Don brought me into politics, in actual fact, back in the 1990s. Rather cutely, shall we say, come along to a meeting and let's see what we can do. And from then, in the late 1990s, I duly became elected as a councillor and hopefully carrying the cudgel. But he represented his residents throughout St Nicholas on his time on the council and on the county council, because we shouldn't forget he served both areas, but he served them very well. Don also was did his national service, and that was the start of his interest, I think, in helping the public. But as I say, he went on to help many more going through the years. He also, sorry, I've missed a bit. I don't want to do that. Yes, when he served as mayor, sorry, his charity was very well looked forward to his support, and he had that support from them. But I'm very pleased to be able to second the nomination. As the leader said, it's the first one in 50 years, and no one is more deserving than Mr. Donald Jakes, MBE. The Queen recognises your commitment to the town, and so do we now. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Councillor. So, I'm very pleased to see that Don Jakes has been the first person nominated to be Honoree Alderman of this borough. I think I should explain for members of the public and honoured guests tonight, and also for those watching at home, why we're doing this, why we're instigating something that so many other councils have done. It's a shame this hasn't happened before. There are some great servants of this borough that have unfortunately passed, and so the opportunity to honour them in this way has gone. Alderman is something that, to qualify for, you need to have been a councillor on the borough, but all of the nominations tonight have done so much more than that. We've heard just a small sample of all the things that Don's done for this community over the years. All the other nominees have also been very active in their community service, as well as being councillors. And it's for that reason that they are particularly selected to be nominated for these honours, which I sincerely hope the council will bestow upon them tonight. And then the other thing we will be doing tonight is nominating 2 people to be free persons of the borough. This is something that has been done in years gone by. We have a book on my desk in the Mayor's Parlour, and there are some very illustrious names in there, I can tell you that. Really illustrious. But there haven't been any names added for about 40 or 50 years. And that isn't right, because there are so many people doing great works in our borough that need to be recognised for that, as an example to others, not only to thank the people for what they've done, but also to say, hey, you know, the borough appreciates when people volunteer, and perhaps you know, not everybody can do as much as some of the nominees tonight have done, but it's worth noting that in some way we will, as a council, endeavour to recognise you for everything that you contribute to our community, because that's what makes really strong communities. So although this hasn't been done before in the history of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council, we felt as a council that this was well overdue to reinstate, and we asked people to put forward nominations of who they thought for both older men and women, and also free persons. And we have come up with the short list tonight that we will be voting on. And so I hope that explains to people why we are here and how people have been selected for these nominations. So we now come to the first vote. I should explain that the rules set out by Parliament in the appropriate legislation for honorary aldermen and women are very specific. The council can't simply vote them through on a majority. It has to be a 2/3 of the vote has to be in favour. So basically abstentions or effectively a vote against, because it needs to be 2/3 of those present. So I would like to, unless anybody else would like to speak on the matter, I would like to call for the votes then. All those in favour of the nomination? Any against? Any abstentions? What? So
that's 27 votes for, Mr. Mayor, and 1 abstention.
27 for and 1 abstention, so that is clearly carried by more than 2/3. Congratulations, Don. The next nominee is David Carr. And I would like to propose David from the chair. The reason for that is, obviously I'm St Nicholas councillor and David's the former councillor before me of St Nicholas. But more than that, I've known David for many years, and he's a man I greatly admire. A wonderful, wonderful friend to have, very wise advice, a very supportive person, the kind of person you could always turn to who would help you whatever you needed. Great family man, and a really good all-round person. But the reason he's been nominated as an alderman is because, in addition to being a councillor on this borough, he has also done an awful lot of good work in the community. I understand that, and I'm going to have to check the dates on this, that you have done not one but 2 terms of chair at George Eliot Hospital Trust as chair of Patient Forum, and before that you did 2 terms as vice chair. You've also been chairman and have served Nuneaton Neighbourhood Watch for 22 years in one form or another, either as vice chairman, chairman, or on the committee there. And you even brought Community Speed Watch to us all. So, you know, you've kept people safe in every way, whether that's through the NHS or whether that's public safety, as well as all the time that you've spent as a councillor. And so I'm not going to list how many things you were chair of and licensing and all the rest of it. I don't want to embarrass you, David. So I would like to nominate you and seek a seconder for that nomination. Councillor Guttridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will second David Carr. I have worked with David Carr when he was on at the council, and I found him to be a truthful, honest and reliable gentleman. Also, he is, following on from what you said about the hospital, I fully support the great work he's done at the hospital. I could go on like you for hours and hours, but I fully support David, and I second David. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other member wish to speak? In that case, if I can move to the vote. All those in favour of the nomination, please show. All those against? There's no one. Any abstentions? We've got 1. So that is carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have nominations for Alan Farnell. Councillor Croft.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the recommendation under item 8 of the agenda, and there are a few things I'd like to say about it. And it should go without saying, Mr. Mayor, that Mr. Alan J. Farnell is a truly deserving recipient of the honour of Alderman of this borough, having given a lifetime of service to the people. He served for 4 terms on this council from 1979 to 1995, having first stood for election in 1973, the year the borough was created. Now, Alan always told me that he'd retired from the borough in 1991, which, in case he thinks I'm being too nice to him today, Mr. Mayor, is the year before I was born. But recently, myself and the leader of the council did check the minute books, and we discovered he was still serving as a ward councillor into the mid-1990s, so even he doesn't realise how much service he's given. Now, Mr. Mayor, the aldermanship is a borough award, but Alan didn't just serve the people at this town hall. His most significant achievements were as a county councillor from 1989 to 2013. And in 2005, he led his party back into office at Shire Hall for the first time since 1993 and became one of the only leaders of the county from the north of Warwickshire. And he held that position for 8 years, skillfully leading a minority administration in his first term before winning a landslide majority in 2009. And as leader, Mr. Mayor, Alan brought a real ethic of public service to bear on the problems of Warwickshire, placing the county's finances on a sound footing, reducing the tax burden, and focusing on his interests of education and schooling. His time in office was not without controversy, but it cannot be otherwise for those who make the big changes. And he never ducked the big decisions. He never fell below the standards of a real leader. Alan didn't just govern for for better headlines in 10 days, but for a better Warwickshire in 10 years. Mr. Mayor, time is the ally of those leaders who place public service and the defence of principle ahead of the pursuit of popularity. And history has little time for the carpers and the complainers, and even less for their opinions, because history focuses on the builders, the deciders, and the leaders who have shaped their communities, like Alan. And when history comes to be written, the name of Alan Farnell will have a place of honour in this county, and those who criticised his achievements will be remembered not at all. Service and leadership, Mr. Mayor. There are no better words a man could wish for to describe his career. And he continues to serve us all still, every day, through his work in the MP's office, helping out countless constituents with their problems. He worked at the Veterans Contact Point for many years as a school governor, a youth worker, and since 2019 he's been El Presidente to us at the Conservative Association. Now, Mr. Mayor, the position of Alderman is an honorary one and has no formal function. But I have heard it said that any holder of that office can be expected to provide advice and support to newer or younger councillors. Alan has never needed a title to do that. He has played the role of mentor to councillors, candidates and campaigners for many years now. I myself have always found him a great source of advice, encouragement and support, and there are few who know just how much of an influence he has had on the public life of this borough. Now, Mr. Mayor, I've gone on slightly longer than you intended, so I want to say two more things before I sit down. First of all, it's a truism, it's not a cliche, it is a truism, that behind many a great man, there is a great woman. And Mal Farnell is a very great woman, having given decades of her own service as a teacher and then a head teacher, educating thousands of school children in this county of ours. And like Alan, she continues to help her community through school appeals, hospital volunteering, and as a tireless and very organised campaigner. Between them, they have given decades of service, helped countless people, and touched so many lives, and that is why we are honouring them today. And on these, the final thing I want to say, Mr. Mayor, on these occasions, I do usually try to find some quotation to lift the tone a bit from my feeble attempts at oratory. And the most appropriate that I found was from an American politician, actually, a lady called Ann Richards, if you remember her, and this is what she said after she retired. "I've seen a lot of change, and I've helped cause some of it. And I can tell you that despite the frustrations and the disappointments, which are many, there is no work which is more rewarding than public service. You may go somewhere else and you may make a lot of money, but you will never receive the kind of gratification that comes from someone who looks you in the eye and says, thank you for helping make my life better. And I want to say to them both tonight, thank you for helping make my life better. And I invite all, and as I move this recommendation, Mr. Mayor, I invite all officers and guests and members to join with me in congratulating and thanking Alderman and Mrs. Farnell, Alan and Mal.
So we need a seconder. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I cannot add to the sheer eloquence of Councillor Croft in proposing Mr. Farnell tonight. Just think, 34 years of someone's life in public office. We all know as councillors you get those phone calls at all hours of the day, and indeed sometimes the night. Alan is a quiet and mild-mannered man, but more importantly, he has a heart of gold and he cares about each individual he comes into contact with, always trying to see the good in every single person. In public life, that can sometimes be challenging, Mr. Mayor. But to the person who is potentially being made homeless or about to lose their job, that can be the greatest comfort that anyone can receive. And Alan does that, Mr. Mayor. He might have been a leader, and there have been bombastic leaders in their time, but Alan was an individual who just got on with the job, saw what the right thing to do was and pursued that course. And I think if those of us who are in public life now can achieve that, again, we are doing a fine job. And as leader of the council, of the county council, Mr. Mayor, Alan was one of those who tried to innovate ahead of his time. We're certainly finding that here at Nuneaton and Bedworth back in the early 2000s. To put Warwickshire and indeed Nuneaton and Bedworth in a good place to actually withstand the trials and tribulations that the 21st century will throw at us. And I have to say, we have had our disagreements over the years, but we have always walked away as friends and colleagues. And I think that is the mark of a true friendship. And the fact is that Alan will argue till the cows come home with you. He will always check and challenge you. He will question your assumptions. And he's done that for numerous councillors over numerous years, and indeed some residents too. But sometimes we need that cold, hard dose of reality and that alternative point of view. And Alan is one who carries on in public life, just behind the scenes, seeing things out. But I know that the residents of Nuneaton and Bedworth will be much poorer, literally and figuratively, without Alan's contribution to public life over not just the 34 years he was in office, but over the years since. And I would also be negligent in not mentioning Mal Farnell, Auntie Mal, as she is affectionately known to a number of us. Alan can be frequently seen trying to pull her away from the pub when she is overdue on her curfew. But they are a team, they are a package. And I am quite confident that all the achievements that Alan accomplished during his time would not have been achieved without the woman at his side. And she has never sought public office. She has never wanted to be in the spotlight. But they are a package, Mr. Mayor, and without them, quite simply, Warwickshire and Nuneaton and Bedworth would not be where we are today. And actually it says as part of the definition of Alderman that they are there to help guide the future generation. There's the perfect teacher right there, Mr. Mayor. And he doesn't care about your party political colour. He will do what is right for our community. And in fact, the number of friends he has across the aisle is a testament to the fact that he gets on with the job rather than just talking about something. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. So that's been moved and seconded it. Any other member wish to speak? No, in that case, we will move to the vote. If all those in favour of the nomination could show. Any against? Any abstentions? Just the one? Everyone else voted in favour, so that's carried. Congratulations. Now, the next nomination on the agenda, another former mayor, is Gerald Smith. And I'd seek a nomination for that. Councillor Gutteridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to propose Gerald Smith for Honourable Alderman. Gerald was elected onto the Borough Council in the year 2000 and served till 2014, the ward of Weddington. He became mayor of the borough in 2008 and raised funds for the Special Care Baby Unit alongside the Mary Ann Hospice. As with all outgoing mayors, he donated a silver gift to the council's collection of mayor's silver gifts. Gerald's donation was a milk bottle with a gold top, which was befitting as he served the local community for many years as a milkman. I formally propose Gerald Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there a second? Mr. Deputy Mayor, you're going to second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's my privilege again. I served alongside Gerald in the Weddington ward, and a better colleague you couldn't have. He was there whenever the residents called, whatever time of day or night, and as has been said before, it's not just a day job, it's a 24/7 job. And whatever time they called, he would always go out and see what the problem was, and wherever possible he would try and help. He did that tirelessly since being elected back in 2000, and as I say, right up until he stood down in 2014. He enjoyed his mayoralty. He was honoured by becoming mayor, and as was said, he's honourable insofar as he took over from a mayor-elect who had already selected his charity, but Gerald, being Gerald, stood by the recommendation and joined that with his own charities, along with, say, the George Eliot Baby Care and the Mary Ann Heavens Hospice, and honoured both of them by raising, I think it was somewhere near £17,000 in total in the end. So it's a substantial achievement, and split that between the two charities. So he's a very honourable man, and I am pleased, proud and honoured to be able to second this nomination tonight. The more deserving chap we haven't got before us. And again, he's still a happy chap. He'll talk with anybody and offer advice to anybody wherever or whenever they want it. And we're just glad that you're still here with us, and we can honour you tonight, Gerald. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor. And I have to say, I can appreciate that it's not easy taking over being mayor when you've not had the lead up to that, and to having to step up and do it without notice. And not easy. And credit to you for that. I have to say personally that Gerald has given me some very good advice. So as Honorary Alderman are there to be a source of reference and good counsel for new councillors, then I'd certainly say Gerald is worth speaking to, because he's always given me a very good steer. Thank you. If we could now move to the vote, unless there's anyone else, no other speakers. So if we move to the vote, all those in favour of the nomination? And against? No. Any abstentions? So that's all in favour and just one against. So that is carried. Congratulations, Gerald. Now, last but by no means least, on the list of honorary old persons, older men, older women, is Diana Hawkes. Can I seek a nomination? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would indeed like to propose Diana Hawkes for the position of Honorary Alderwoman. As I understand it, Di, as she goes by, first became a councillor in 1986 and served the community of Bedworth for over 26 years. Again, a substantial commitment in one's life to dedicating themselves to a community, but one I know that both her and her husband, Brian, loved to death the community of Bedworth. And whilst our time on the council briefly crossed over with each other, Brian was actually elected at the same year, well, his second election actually to council at the same time as I was. And when we used, in the downtime you have in between committees, we used to have a chat, and he has a wicked sense of humour, Mr. Mayor. He would often talk about Bedworth and the works that he and Di did together, and indeed, when she served as mayor from 2000 to 2001, and there are very few people who can actually claim they were the millennium mayor of their authority. It's something that doesn't come round very often. I think we'll have a very long wait, Mr. Mayor, for someone to surpass Di's record in Nuneaton and Bedworth on that one. She has also been a lifelong supporter of the air ambulance and raised thousands for the air ambulance during her time as mayor. Indeed, Councillor Croft referred to the minute books, which I'm in the process of trying to assemble in my office, Mr. Mayor, because I am something of a historian, and they are distributed throughout this building, unfortunately. And I was reading through some, not only just to find Alan Farnell's, but we came across Di's career in the minute books. And I have to say, despite our differences, you had an illustrious career serving your residents and your community alongside your husband. I indeed well remember when we were at the Bedworth Cricket Club for its opening, and you were there with Brian, and Brian was unfortunately ill at the time. And Brian and I, as I say, had served on a number of committees, and he said, "Chris, it's no good. My trousers are getting too short with all this treatment." And I turned round to him and said, "It's all right, Brian. It just means that you'll save on shoe polish as they keep wiping along the top." And he went, "You know, Chris, you're right on that one. That saves me a bit of money there." And that sense of humour that the both of them had, each other's rock, side by side, meant that they were a formidable force representing our community, both during Di's term as mayor, but in her own right as mayoress too. And I think, if his memory serves, you're the first person to actually ever have accomplished that achievement, to be the first mayor and mayoress of the borough. So a double historic achievement there for Di Hawkes. But one thing I also think shouldn't be forgotten in all of this is that for many years Di served on the bench for the magistracy. And in my career, I work in the court service, and I have come across many magistrates. And Jeff tells me that he came across you a number of occasions whilst you were serving on the bench. He wouldn't divulge any stories, so you are quite safe on that front, Di. But seeing some of the cases I have seen, and what you have no doubt seen, dispensing justice and trying to do right by all manner of persons, as your judicial office required you to do, is difficult, but you did so with aplomb, according to all the magistrates I have been able to speak to around the place. So it's not just your council life that we are honouring tonight, it is the work that you did for the whole community in terms of serving justice. And that is something, Mr. Mayor, in my experience, that we don't honour enough either. The people who keep the wheels of justice turning. Let us not forget that over 90% of cases in the justice system are actually dealt with by people, volunteers like Di, who give of their time freely. And whilst you are forced to retire at a certain age, I personally believe that is unfair, because if you've still got all the cogs going, then you should still be able to keep serving. But I believe Di does deserve being recognised by this council for your service, not just within these four walls, but out there in the community too, because we would be much poorer without you. So, across the aisle, I extend the hand of friendship and say, congratulations. I'm pleased that you have accepted this nomination, and I look forward to seeing you being installed as the first alderwoman of Nuneaton and Bedworth since 1974. Congratulations.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think I can add much more to what Chris has said, to be honest with yourself. I knew Brian, in all fairness, more than I knew Di, with regards to being a councillor in Bedworth councillor, but also in regards to being a governor at schools. So the amount of effort both parties put in and themselves, I believe, deserves this award. Thank you.
Any other member wish to speak? In that case, if we could move to the vote. All those in favour of the nomination? Any against? Abstentions? 1. So that is carried. Great. So that concludes the nominations for honorary aldermen and women of the borough. But we now turn to agenda items 11 and then 12, which is for nominations for honorary freeman or free woman of the borough. I should explain to guests and to those watching at home or on the video later that this is the very highest honour that a borough can bestow on any individual. There is no qualifying criteria, unlike with older men and women who have to have been councillors, other than you need to have gone truly above and beyond and really performed and contributed to your community in a way that brings honour on you and also your community. And you know, amongst the the Alderman, you know, we've got Don, who was recognised by Her Majesty with the BEM. You know, we have two wonderful nominees tonight in terms of Free Person of the Borough, both recognised by Her Majesty with MBEs. And so I would like to, under agenda item 11, ask for nominations for Garung MBE. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I spoke of one person who is a force of nature already tonight, but to speak of two is quite something in this chamber, and Garung is quite literally a one-man whirlwind when it comes to serving not just the Gurkha community, but the community of Nuneaton and Bedworth as a whole. And I think it says something about Nuneaton and Bedworth, Mr. Mayor, that of all the places that and his fellow Gurkhas could have picked, it is Nuneaton and Bedworth they have picked to make their home. And what an addition we have had to the vibrancy and culture of our towns. And is right at the very heart of ensuring that that happens. Indeed, we've already been talking, well, actually, I was probably roped into this more than anything. I thought I was going to have a quick meeting with and yourself, Mr. Mayor. Little did I know there was a whole entourage of his fellow Gurkha businessmen wanting to talk to me about what the Gurkhas can do for Nuneaton and Bedworth and how they wanted to be involved, particularly as it happens in the upcoming Platinum Jubilee celebrations. And before I'd even told him, Mr. Mayor, that we were working on a Freedom of the Borough parade for the Fusiliers and the Gurkha up at the barracks, he'd already told me he'd been in touch with the Colonel and half organised it all anyway, which goes to tell you something that is not just a talker, he is a doer. And even now, his mind will be whirring with ideas about what he can do for Nuneaton and Bedworth, and indeed he is working on works that we can do in Riversley Park. We have, I believe, and I'm prepared to be corrected, but we have the first ever Gurkha memorial in Nuneaton because of the tireless efforts of and his team. And it was opened by the ambassador and Joanna Lumley, I believe, from memory. And he's continually working on other ideas to do that too. And indeed, he is a famous restaurateur in Nuneaton. And during the height of the pandemic, I think it was pleasing to see that he put ideas of profit aside and anything else. He took meals from his restaurant direct to the nurses and the doctors serving our most sick in the hospital, who were literally fighting for their lives. And those doctors and nurses had that little bit of comfort from someone who was so community-minded as I also believe, Mr. Mayor, because we actually have more examples of freemen dating back actually to the old borough of Nuneaton, but you will certainly, Mr. Mayor, find that there has been no Gurkha freeman ever in Nuneaton and Bedworth. And I would also be willing to wager that would be the first freeman of any council across the land. And I think that is a testament to the tenacity and the ingenuity and the heart of Garung. And I know that he never sought this. In fact, when we spoke about this, he never sought the honour of Freeman of the Borough. But I know it won't be just him that is accepting this honour. He's accepting it on behalf of his whole community. It's not just his community, Mr. Mayor, it's our community. It is the community of Nuneaton and Bedworth, of which the Gurkhas are just part, because we are one whole community. And I want to say thank you, for making Nuneaton and Bedworth your home. Thank you for everything that you and your colleagues and friends and family do. And you are Nuneaton and Bedworth, and you are what makes us so unique and special. And he is deserving of the first freeman of this borough since its creation in 1974. I so move, Mr. Mayor.
In fact, I'm going to second that from the chair. I have to say, you work tirelessly to help everybody that comes to you for assistance. I think all the former mayors here can can agree that you've been tremendously helpful to all of us without fear or favour or political side or anything of it. Raising funds for mayor's charities, helping out wherever you could, forging links across our communities, and making, winning the hearts and minds of the people of the borough. I can't think of a better example to be our first freeman, and so I'm very happy to second you on. Is there any other member that would like to speak? Councillor Shepherd.
Apologies, Mr Mayor, for not standing up. I've known him a long time, and as you say, when mayors come into place, I'm usually within the appeal committee, asking what support he can give you, how we can support you. He's always supported the community. He continues to support the community without anybody actually knowing he's really involved. He moves and shakes people around, and they find themselves doing things that they didn't know they were going to do. But he is very good at that. He obviously is working now as a director with the community centre, which we're eternally grateful for, because directors are extremely hard to get. So it would be only right and proper that that is mentioned. But his work with the community and bringing the community together certainly has not gone unnoticed. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. As there's no other speakers, then we will move to the vote. All those in favour of the nomination, please show. That is unanimous. Thank you. Now we come to agenda item 12, which is the nomination of Honorary Free Woman of Mrs. Jean Whitaker. Can I ask for a nomination? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's an honour and a privilege to stand here before you all tonight and move the nomination for Jean Whitaker as the first free woman from Bedworth under this new honours scheme. Jean's probably the borough's best known fundraiser in many respects. She's known across the borough for the fantastic efforts that she's made over the years on behalf of the George Eliot Hospital. Personally, I've known Jean for more than 20 years. Actually, since her son Paul moved into a house across the road from me for several years. And, Jean, the husband, would come round occasionally, we'd get to chat. And it's significant that in all that time, I didn't know what she did, which just goes to show that it was about what she was doing. It wasn't about her. And in fact, it's great to see members of the family here tonight to support her, because I know Jean recognises that she could not have done what she's done without the support of her family. Jean spent 39 years, just 39 years, raising money for the George Eliot Hospital. And that's a cause that's close to all of our hearts here in this borough. During that time, she raised over £1 million for the hospital. And that was recognised in 2008 when she received the MBE from the Queen, which is a fantastic tribute that the nation can give. But obviously tonight, this is the highest honour that we as a borough can give you. I'm sorry it's not another medal from the Queen, Jean, but it's the best that we can do. Jean started work at the hospital as a ward clerk, and basically her fundraising efforts started when she was asked to help raise money for 2 infusion pumps. She was in the coronary care ward at the time, and because of her efforts, they were able to raise enough money to get 4 pumps. Right? And so really, that's where it started, the slippery slope, if you like. So next it was the first CT scanner at the hospital. Then it moved on to the Healthy Hearts programme. Full body MOTs came afterwards, and then the prostate clinic. And I think it's significant to think that at the time, some of these things, the hospital was really ahead of the curve. In terms of prostrate clinics, that was the subject that men's health wasn't really talked about at the time, yet we were doing it here in Nuneaton and Bedworth at the George Eliot. She kept up these efforts until she retired 4 years ago. So today, this well-deserved recipient of this award tonight, she's a proud lady, a wife, a mother, a grandmother to 5 grandchildren. And just to finish off, really, I'd like to say that to raise money for good causes takes effort. Sometimes it takes pain. I'm sure Councillor Golby can probably let us know, to talk about that with their fire walk recently. But just think of the effort it takes for 39 years to raise £1 million plus. That takes somebody really special. And for that reason, I'm honoured and proud to be able to stand here tonight and move this nomination. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there a seconder? Oh. Councillor Markham. I've got a lot of seconders. Very popular, Jean.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm very happy to second this award, and I fully agree with the comments made by Councillor Brown. Unfortunately, it doesn't leave a great deal for me to add. Suffice to say that raising over £1 million for charity is a phenomenal achievement, and Jean's award as Honorary Free Woman is well and truly deserved. Thank you.
I'm having to stand because my microphone doesn't work. Okay. I've known Jean for a long time. My youngest daughter, I think, was 2 or 3 when she first came in contact with Jean. She's now 31 and married. And I met Jean when she was a war clerk on coronary care. And my husband was the manager of... No, he wasn't, was he, Jean? He was a nurse, and then he became the manager of coronary care. And what those two didn't get up to isn't worth knowing. Honestly, the laughter that used to come from CCU at the Elliot in the most saddened times sometimes. I can remember Ian came home one Boxing Day, and he said that they'd lost a 9-year-old boy. So Jean, obviously the following days would make sure that her staff, because that's what she was in charge of coronary care, not Ian, would have the support and everything that they needed. If you were on a ward, because I was also a ward clerk, and a very important piece of equipment was needed and they couldn't get it, or, funds were a bit low, leave it to Jean. She would make sure that you would get it. And I guarantee within less than a week, that piece of equipment would be on the ward without any shadow of a doubt. She was a lovely still is, sorry, Jean. She's a lovely, selfless woman, and she's got a lovely husband behind her, Norman, as well. She couldn't do what she has done without the support of Norman. He used to quietly, I think, decorate schools around. So he's also, if you had a child in an Nuneaton school, it's highly likely that Norman painted the classroom for you. But no, she's such a kind lady, such selfless lady who will quietly go around and raise £1 million almost without anyone knowing about it. So I would also like to give my support to this as well. A free woman, but she's always been a free woman now, Jean. Okay.
Thank you very much, Councillor Llewellyn-Nash. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would also like to support the nomination. I would like to have proposed, seconded, but I'll fourth the nomination of Jean. I think all of us in this room have some sort of connection to the George Eliot Hospital. All of us have probably, all of us in this room probably been born at the George Eliot Hospital, or we've received some sort of treatment, or we've had to go to the hospital to see relatives at the end of life. And I don't think that we can be in any doubt whatsoever that as a direct result of Jean's charitable endeavours over the last 30, 40 years, Jean has saved lives in this borough. That is a fact. And when you go into the Mayor's Parlour and you read that book of those who have been awarded the title of Freeman, I think that Jean absolutely deserves to be the first free woman of Nuneaton and Bedworth. And when you look at those names, Gurung, and all those war veterans from the Second World War, Jean deserves a place in that book. And she will go down well in the history books of Bedworth.
As there are no more speakers, I will ask to move to the vote. All those in favour? And that is again unanimous. Thank you. It would be fitting if councillors were to stand and applaud all of our recipients tonight. Thank you. That brings us almost to the end of our proceedings, but I'm now going to squeeze out from behind this in the robes and present the award, the relevant, can you hang on, I'll completely down there, and present the badges of office to each of the recipients. And we also have a certificate that's been signed by myself and the Chief Executive. And if they want a quick photo, we'll get that done, and then we can all go and have a brief celebration. But if you would just indulge me, I will head down and give out the awards. So Don, if I can ask you to... David, if you'd like to... Sorry. That's for you, sir. Farnell, come on. So that brings us to the end of our proceedings for this evening. So we will stop the live streaming. If I can ask the recipients, and if they want to bring their guests as well to accompany me to the parlour, you are all required to sign a book, and either the new Alderman's one that we've purchased at great expense, or the illustrious free persons one. So if the other guests would excuse us.